I always thought my boyfriend couldn't spend time with me because he was busy, until I got a call from his wife telling me, "You're the reason my daughter thinks daddy doesn't love mommy anymore." When I asked him for the truth, he said, "You're the only one I love." But I saw right through it. I was done, and so was his family. Today, he's love bombing me to worm his way back into my life. When he cried after I told him I loved him, I thought it meant he felt the same. Turns out, it was guilt. I met Jason at a friend's housewarming. He was the kind of guy who smelled like expensive cologne and made eye contact feel like a full-body experience. I was 25, working 2 jobs, and sleeping on a futon that felt like it hated me. But Jason had a real apartment. He drove a Tesla. He wore watches that made my wrists itch from jealousy. He told me he owned a boutique marketing firm and traveled for client work. He said he was a night owl, hated mornings, and always kept his phone on silent so clients wouldn't disrupt his peace. Translation: he had a million excuses I swallowed without chewing. The first time I asked to meet his family, he kissed my forehead and said, "Baby, they're just not good people. You don't deserve that energy." I took it as a green flag, like he was protecting me. That's how deep in the fog I was. I didn't meet a single soul in his life for 8 months. No friends, family, nothing. He'd cancel plans last minute saying, "I can't tonight, client emergency," or "You'd be bored. It's all business talk anyway." But when I'd cancel on him, he'd show up at my place with flowers, and this looked like I'd just kicked his dog. Once, I asked him to call me during work. Nothing crazy, just mid-afternoon. Yet he refused, said he didn't mix business with pleasure. But still, I didn't question it. I started changing my schedule to match his, sleeping late, pushing back shifts. I even stopped going to my Wednesday pottery class because he always felt like talking around that time. It wasn't a relationship, it was emotional puppetry. The unraveling started the day I found a hairbrush with long blonde hair in the glove compartment of his Tesla. Jason has brown hair. I pulled it out and said, half joking, "Should I be worried?" He laughed, leaned over, and said, "You're the only woman in my life who doesn't make me want to lie." My chest got warm. I believed him. But a week later, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice, shaky, controlled. She said, "I know who you are. I've seen the texts." My stomach dropped. "This is Melissa, Jason's wife. We've been married 10 years. We have a daughter, and you are the reason she asks why daddy doesn't love mommy anymore." I couldn't speak. I just stood in the middle of the street with my keys in my hand and no idea where I was going anymore. Melissa wasn't even angry. That made it worse. She was exhausted. She just said, "You're not the first." Then she hung up. I waited 5 hours before texting him. "Did you lie to me about everything?" He didn't respond. But the next day, he sent a voice note. It was 5 minutes of muffled sobbing and one sentence whispered at the end. "You're the only one who ever made me feel real." I should have blocked him. I almost did. But instead, I texted back, "We need to talk." He agreed. We met in the parking lot behind a 24-hour diner. He looked like a wreck, eyes swollen, shirt wrinkled. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," he said. Then he went on a monologue about how broken his marriage was, how lonely he felt, how he thought he was falling in love with me. I asked him why he never told me. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Because I knew if I told you the truth, you'd leave, and I needed you to stay." I slapped him. Not hard, just enough to remind myself I was still real. For 2 weeks after that, I couldn't eat or sleep. I couldn't even open my bedroom blinds. I felt disgusting, until I did something weird. I went back to my Wednesday pottery class. Same instructor, same dusty room, same lady next to me who always brought snacks but never asked for anything back. Over the next few weeks, that pottery class became my safe space. But then last week, I saw a girl in my apartment's parking lot. Pink hoodie, scared eyes, phone in one hand, tears in the other. She couldn't have been more than 19, and she looked like the spitting image of Jason. I watched her get into a Tesla, and as she drove away, she threw a full cup of soda at me. I stood there dripping, sticky soda running down my shirt, too shocked to move. A neighbor walking his dog gave me a wide berth. I couldn't blame him. Back in my apartment, I peeled off my soaked clothes and took the hottest shower I could stand. The girl's face kept flashing in my mind. She hated me. She thought I was the homewrecker, the villain in her family story. But I wasn't. I was just another victim of Jason's lies. She needed to know that. I found her on Instagram that night. Emma Wilson. Her profile was public, full of typical teenage posts, selfies with friends, pictures of her cat, a few family photos from what looked like last Christmas. Jason, Melissa, and Emma smiling in matching sweaters in front of a tree. They looked happy, normal, like the perfect family. I messaged her, just a simple, "I think we should talk. I didn't know about your parents." She blocked me within minutes. I tried to let it go. This wasn't my mess to clean up. But the image of Emma throwing that soda, the pure hatred in her eyes, it haunted me. Jason had not only lied to me, he'd weaponized me, used me as the scapegoat for his failing marriage, the external problem that was breaking apart their perfect family. 3 days later, I was leaving work when I spotted Emma again. She was sitting on a bench outside the coffee shop, headphones on, staring at her phone. I hesitated. This was probably a terrible idea, but I grabbed an extra chocolate croissant, our best seller, and walked outside. I placed the paper bag next to her on the bench and started to walk away. No confrontation, just a peace offering. "Wait," she called after me. I turned around. She had pulled her headphones down around her neck. "Why are you being nice to me? I threw soda at you." I shrugged. "Because you're not the one I'm mad at." She studied me for a moment, then gestured to the space next to her on the bench. I sat down, keeping a respectful distance. "He told us you knew," she said quietly, "that you pursued him even though you knew he was married." My blood ran cold. Of course he did. Of course he'd make me the predator in this scenario. "I didn't know," I said. "I swear to you, I had no idea until your mom called me." Emma looked skeptical. "Why should I believe you?" "Good question." I pulled out my phone and showed her the text history between Jason and me. The first time he asked me out, the times he'd come to my apartment late at night, the messages where he talked about our future together. Not once was there any mention of a wife or daughter. He told me he lived alone, I explained, that his parents were toxic and he had no contact with them, that he worked late and had client emergencies. He never mentioned having a family. Emma scrolled through the messages, her face getting paler. These are from nights he told us he was working late, she whispered. Mom's birthday, my dance recital. I felt sick. I'm so sorry. I never would have. I know. She cut me off. I can tell. She handed my phone back. He's been lying to everyone. We sat in silence for a minute. Then Emma told me her side of things, how her parents had been fighting for years, how her dad was always working late or traveling for business, how her mom had suspected something but could never prove it, until she found receipts for dinners and hotels in his email. He told Mom you were just some crazy girl from his office who was obsessed with him, Emma said, that you kept pursuing him even though he told you to stop. He made it sound like you were stalking him or something. I couldn't believe it. Actually, that's not true. I could absolutely believe it. Jason was a professional liar. He'd been manipulating all of us. Your mom called me, I told her. She knew the truth. Emma nodded. She didn't believe him either. That's why they've been fighting so much. He keeps denying everything, making her feel crazy for questioning him. Classic gaslighting. I'd experienced it myself. All those times I'd questioned his unavailability, his secretiveness, only to have him turn it around on me, making me feel needy and insecure for wanting basic honesty. Why did you come looking for me? I asked. Emma twisted the strings of her hoodie. I found more messages on his laptop, not just with you. There were others. Her voice cracked. I wanted to hate you. It was easier than hating him. My heart broke for this kid. She was dealing with something no teenager should have to face. I get it, I said. I wanted to hate your mom when I found out. It was easier than admitting I'd been completely fooled. We talked for almost 2 hours. About Jason's manipulation tactics, about how he played all of us against each other, about the elaborate web of lies he'd constructed to maintain his double life. Mom's thinking about divorce, Emma said eventually, but he keeps convincing her to give him another chance. Says he'll go to therapy. Says it was just a midlife crisis. I snorted. He's 34. That's a little young for a midlife crisis. Emma's eyes widened. What? No, he's 41. Another lie. Of course. I shouldn't have been surprised, but somehow I still was. The man had lied about literally everything, down to his age. Emma, I said carefully, I think your mom needs to know everything. The other women, the continued lying about his age, all of it. She nodded slowly. I know. It's going to destroy what's left of our family. I put my hand on her shoulder. Your dad already did that. The truth is just going to make it official. 2 days later, Emma texted me. She'd told her mom everything, showed her the additional messages she'd found. Melissa had kicked Jason out of the house. He was staying at a hotel and blowing up both their phones with desperate messages. I felt relieved for them, but also worried. I knew firsthand how persuasive Jason could be, how he could twist things around until black looked white. I told Emma to tell her mom to document everything, save all messages, record phone calls if legal in their state. Then something unexpected happened. Melissa called me, asked if we could meet for coffee. I was terrified but agreed. We met at a small cafe across town, neutral territory. Melissa looked nothing like I'd imagined. She was beautiful in a natural, understated way. No makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, tired eyes that had seen too much. Thank you for talking to Emma, she said after we'd gotten our drinks. She told me everything. I stared into my latte. I'm so sorry. I really didn't know. Melissa shook her head. I believe you. Jason is very convincing when he wants to be. We compared notes, the lies he'd told each of us, the manipulation tactics, the guilt trips, the love bombing when he felt he was losing control. It was eerie how similar our experiences were, despite the completely different contexts. There were others, Melissa said quietly, before you. I found out about 2 of them over the years. He always swore they meant nothing, that he'd ended things, that he would change. And you stayed, I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded. 10 years of marriage, a mortgage, a child. It's not as simple as just walking away. I understood, even though I'd never been in her position. The sunk cost fallacy of relationships. The more you've invested, the harder it is to admit it's not working. What are you going to do now? I asked. Divorce him, she said firmly. I've already contacted a lawyer. I should have done it years ago. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, not because I wanted their marriage to end, but because Melissa was finally freeing herself from Jason's manipulation. We were about to leave when Melissa's phone rang. It was Emma, panicking. Jason had shown up at the house, demanding to talk. He was making a scene in the front yard. I have to go, Melissa said, already gathering her things. I'll come with you, I offered without thinking. If that's okay. She looked surprised but nodded. Actually, that might be helpful. We drove separately to their house, a beautiful 2-story in a nice suburb. Jason's Tesla was parked haphazardly in the driveway. We could hear his voice from inside Melissa's car. You're overreacting. It was nothing. She meant nothing. I flinched. She meant nothing. That she was me. The woman he'd told he was falling in love with. The woman he'd sent 5 minutes of sobbing to in a voice note. I meant nothing. Melissa squeezed my arm. Ready? I nodded, though I definitely wasn't. We got out of the car. Jason was on the front porch, gesturing wildly while Emma stood in the doorway, arms crossed. When he saw us together, he froze. What is she doing here? He demanded, pointing at me. Helping clean up your mess, Melissa replied calmly. Emma, go inside, please. Emma hesitated but went in, closing the door behind her. Now it was just the 3 of us in the front yard, a perfect triangle of deception. Jason recovered quickly. So this is your plan? Gang up on me? Make me the villain? You did that yourself, I said, finding my voice. You lied to all of us. He turned to me, eyes narrowing. I told you we were separated. I told you my marriage was over in all but name. No, you didn't, I countered. You never mentioned being married at all. Not once in 8 months, he scoffed. That's not true. You knew. You must have known. This was the Jason I'd never seen before. The mask completely off. No more charming smiles or intense eye contact. Just a desperate man trying to rewrite reality. We have the texts, Jason, Melissa said. All of them. him. From her phone, from the others, from your laptop. It's over. His face changed. The anger melted into something more calculated. He stepped toward Melissa, voice softening. Mel, baby, we can work through this. We've been together too long to throw it all away. Think about Emma. I watched in real time as he switched tactics, from defensive to pleading. It was fascinating in a horrible way. I am thinking about Emma, Melissa replied. I'm thinking she deserves to see her mother respect herself. I'm thinking she needs to learn that this kind of behavior isn't something women should tolerate. Jason's eyes flicked to me, then back to Melissa. This isn't about her. This is about us, our family. There is no us anymore, Melissa said firmly. I want you to leave. My lawyer will contact yours. Jason's face hardened again. You're making a mistake, both of you. He jabbed a finger in my direction. You think you're so innocent in all this? You knew exactly what you were doing. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of his accusation in the face of such overwhelming evidence to the contrary. What I knew was what you told me, I said, which was apparently nothing but lies. He stared at me for a long moment. Then, without another word, he got in his Tesla and drove away. The silence he left behind felt like a physical presence. Melissa let out a long breath. That went better than expected. I raised an eyebrow. Really? She nodded. Last time I confronted him about another woman, he threw a chair through our TV. We went inside. Emma was sitting on the stairs, clearly having listened to everything. Her eyes were red but dry. Is he gone? She asked. For now, Melissa confirmed. But this isn't over. You know how he is. He'll be back with flowers and promises tomorrow. Emma looked at me. What do we do? I was surprised she was including me in this we, but I guess we were all in this mess together now. We stick to the truth, I said. All of us. No matter what he says or does. The next few days were intense. Jason alternated between love bombing and threats. He sent Melissa enormous flower arrangements with tearful cards. He sent Emma texts about how much he missed her, how this was all a big misunderstanding. He even tried to contact me again, creating new phone numbers when I blocked the old ones. I never meant to hurt you, one text read. You have to believe me. What we had was real. I showed every message to Melissa and Emma. We created a group chat where we could share his latest manipulation attempts in real time. It became almost darkly comical, watching him try the same tactics on all three of us simultaneously, not realizing we were comparing notes. He just sent me a text saying he's at a hotel contemplating ending it all, Melissa said one evening. Did either of you get something similar? Yep, I confirmed. Got the same one 10 minutes ago. Me too, Emma added. But Instagram shows he's actually at a bar downtown. Someone tagged him in a story. We burst out laughing. Not because Sewer's Lytle threats are funny, they're not, but because his manipulation was so transparent now that we were working together. The solidarity between the three of us was unexpected, but powerful. We were turning Jason's greatest weapon, isolation, against him. He couldn't manipulate us individually anymore. A week after the confrontation in the front yard, Jason showed up at my apartment. I was coming home from pottery class, clay still under my fingernails, when I saw him leaning against my door. We need to talk, he said, pushing off the wall as I approached. I clutched my keys tighter. I have nothing to say to you. He stepped closer. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I thought about just turning around and leaving, but this was my home. I wasn't going to let him chase me away from it. 2 minutes, I said. In the hallway. I'm not letting you inside. He nodded, seeming relieved I was willing to listen at all. I'm sorry, he began. I know I hurt you. I know I lied. But what we had was based entirely on deception, I finished for him. There was no what we had, Jason. It was all fiction. He shook his head. Number, the feelings were real. I fell in love with you while you were married, with a daughter, living a completely different life than the one you described to me. He ran a hand through his hair. It's complicated. My marriage has been over for years. We were just going through the motions for Emma's sake. That's not what Melissa says. Or Emma. His expression darkened. So you're all best friends now? Bonding over what a terrible person I am? Actually, yes, I said honestly. It's been quite healing. That threw him. He wasn't used to women comparing notes. He was used to controlling the narrative. Look, he said, changing tactics again. I'm getting a divorce. It's happening. Once it's final, maybe we could. I held up a hand. Stop. There is no future for us, Jason. Even if you were single tomorrow, I would never trust you again. People make mistakes, he insisted. I'm getting help. Therapy. I'm working on myself. I almost laughed. The therapy card. Classic. Good for you, I said. I hope it helps, but your journey of self-improvement has nothing to do with me anymore. I moved to unlock my door. He put his hand on the door frame, blocking me slightly. Just think about it, he urged. We were good together. I looked him directly in the eyes, those same eyes that once made me forget what I was saying mid-sentence. Now I just saw emptiness. A man so hollow he had to fill himself with other people's emotions. No, we weren't, I said quietly. We were never together at all. You were with a version of me that didn't ask too many questions, and I was with a version of you that didn't exist. I ducked under his arm and went inside, locking the door behind me. He knocked a few times, called my name, but eventually left. I texted Melissa immediately to warn her he might be heading their way next. Already here, she texted back with an eye roll emoji. Brought Emma's favorite ice cream and tickets to a concert she mentioned wanting to see months ago. What did you do? I asked. Told him to leave the ice cream and the tickets and himself. I smiled. Melissa was stronger than I'd initially given her credit for. We all were. Over the next month, Jason's attempts to worm his way back into our lives became less frequent. The divorce proceedings were underway. Melissa had documented years of his deception and emotional abuse. Emma was in therapy, processing her complicated feelings about her father. And me? I was healing too. I went to pottery class twice a week. I got that marketing internship. I started dating again, very cautiously, with a lot more questions up front. Ruth, my pottery class friend, gave me a turquoise ring similar to hers for my birthday. Protective stone, she explained, helps you see through bullshit. I wear it every day as a reminder, not of Jason, but of my own resilience. of the women who helped me rebuild, of the power of truth.